Fate of the Wandering Jew by J. Cruz. Post-revolutionary Europe produced a new brand of antisemitism, just as brutal and bloodthirsty, but not driven by the Catholic Church or Protestant entities, or as in the times of the Roman Empire, when Christianity was the religion of the emperor, hence of the Romans, that turned against the Israelites, culminating into the destruction of the temple, 73 AD, and eventually the annihilation and expulsion of the Jews, who dispersed themselves all throughout the known world, from northern Africa to the furthest reaches of the East. The diaspora produced an array of different rich cultural Jews, Jews, and even religious practices. The bulk of these immigrants went to the East, to the Arab and Middle Eastern areas, and to Western Europe, primarily Spain, where eventually they also made their way to Alemannia, Germany. Ironically, the Jews in the Arab areas or states were treated almost as equals compared to the Jews that settled in Europe. The Sephardics and Ashkenazics, Sephardics meaning Spain and Ashkenaz meaning Germany, were by far, by the 16th century, the most numerous. Religious anti-Semitism flitted away. The Passion plays were less of an extravagance to conjure up hate among the masses towards the Jews, the Christ killers, the bringers of the plague, the Black Death, the so-called well poisoners of Toledo, Spain, and the so-called Christian faith impostors, conversos, so-called, who were martyred for their faith by the despicable Catholic Church, especially in Spain and Italy, but just as well as France and Portugal. Protestants were just as zealous, with the English Anglican Church, the culprits of the fire pits. History is riddled with martyrs, Jews and Christians alike. But this is not about my Christian brethren. This is an attempt to tell my understanding of anti-Semitism, its roots, its progression, its manifestation, and its permanent resonant ring through time. Also, anti-Semitism's dual existence from almost 2 millennia ago to the revolution of the 18th century, when monarchies fell and military governments ruled supreme, and Rome fell from grace. That ingrained, almost primordial, xenophobic attitude towards the Israelites never really went away. It just donned a new hat. The European political upheaval created in the minds of the Continentals that Jewish people were outsiders, yet Jews lived among them for close to a millennium. It seems after the 18th century that the mantle of hate was taken up by the masses, for the patriciate made no matter of the Jew, not yet anyway. They saw the Jews as the Shylock, the merchant, the small banker, lending at exorbitant interest rates, riding his high horse, insisting after their fair daughters, and laughing behind closed doors. Pamphlets of the esteemed Martin Luther, the Reformationist, who penned them almost 2 centuries past, came back into circulation, condemning the Jew in all his inglorious and unholy acts, debasing Germans and Germany itself. It struck a chord. Secret societies sprung up all over Germany at the turn of the 17th and 1800s. Many of them had the same familiar ghosts: illumination, self-knowledge, no Jews. Apparently they were too secretive and were put down by their respective military monarchs of each Lande, German states, many executed. They will not be the last we see of these so-called secret societies in Europe. It will be a little over a century before the world, specifically Germany, produces a society that morphs into evil unimagined and leaves a legacy of the 20th century that stains it forever.